Go ahead and unmute Abby and we'll go.
All right. Hello. Oh, I'm still muted. Sorry. Hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Good to see everyone.
Hi, everybody.
It's just Daniel, Marla, and myself, and Derek here. So we have a quorum thanks to you guys on Zoom. So thank you so much for doing that.
A virtual thing.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off unless anybody has any objections. It is December 14th. My name is Daniel B. Smith. I'm the chair of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and I am calling this meeting to order at 7:32 with a roll call vote, as I always do. And I'm going to start with Marlo.
Present.
And then Denise. And then Mary.
Present.
And then Dina. I think I saw Dina. So
Oh, I didn't hear. I'm sorry. Did you say my name? I'm here.
yeah, Dina. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Marciana,
Here.
and then Rebecca,
Here.
and then Jill and Tim. I believe both of them could not make it. All right, great. So moving on from that, we will kick things off by approving the November minutes. So at this time, if anybody has any comments about the minutes from November, or
A motion to approve them, I will accept those.
This is Dina Amont. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Great. Thank you, Dina. And do I have a second?
This is Marlo. I'll second.
This is Rebecca Schlichting, and I second.
All right, great. I will accept either of those. So then once again, the roll call vote, Marlo,
Approve.
Mary,
Yeah.
Dina,
Approve.
Marciana,
Approve.
Rebecca.
Approve.
Great. And I will approve as well. It will pass unanimously, which means that we will move right along. I used to always say this is going to be a short meeting, and then I stopped doing it, but really, I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, public comment is up next. I don't know if we have anybody online. We don't appear to have anybody here, but if anybody has public comment, go ahead. I don't think so.
I think it's just us.
Just us. All right, great. Just the five of us. So, then we will go ahead and move on to new business and discuss the Phoenix Awards nominations. And I think that's something, I don't know anything about it, so I'm excited to hear what's going on.
So let me pull this up for us here. Get you guys on Zoom with us. Please hold. All right. All right, let me know if you have trouble seeing this. My little bar out of the way here, sorry guys. Okay, so our next step in the Phoenix Awards is to send out the 2023 nomination instructions. I have had some emails come through asking for this. So people are definitely taking notice of what we're doing and excited to recommend themselves and their friends. And this usually goes out sometime in the new year, and I know we're bumping up the calendar. So I thought, this would be a logical next step. I included the calendar and I included the entire calendar. So we're just going to scroll down here to the Phoenix Awards slide here. And this is sort of the normal schedule for the year. And according to this, we would have sent this out in March, but we're bumping things up a few months. So I think naturally it would make sense to be looking at this now, potentially to send out, early to mid-January, whatever we decide. So I will scroll back up. I've highlighted the dates in here, and I've gone over this once already, and I will several more times as I'm making the edits to try to catch all of the all of the changes that we've already made to our other documents with the 2023 date and such. So first off, we are, the ceremony for the Phoenix Awards, I think we've just tentatively kept it as a fall date, as a November date. I don't think we've published the actual ceremony date, but that's something we can definitely look at. And perhaps the subcommittee, if you guys feel comfortable talking, just the four of you, and picking a date that you think might be a good one for the ceremony, we can publish that with this document in January. So taking the pressure off of deciding a date right here on the spot, maybe take some time and we can reconvene about that date at the retreat. I know there are several of you that are on this subcommittee here in Zoom. How does that sound?
Yeah, this is Mary. That sounds like a good idea.
Great, wonderful. Well, I'll leave it to you guys to chat about that, and we'll reconvene in January. So the deadline to submit nominations, at least in 2019, this was left up until the month prior. Does that still feel appropriate for you all?
What? I'm sorry, the deadline to submit nominations September 6th.
Well, it was just a month prior.
So depending on when we want to have the ceremony, we can bump out that date to.
We probably want to set the deadline for nominations being submitted. I think on one of your forms it said June.
Mm-hmm. I think we can make addendums to.
But what we need to do is make sure that we have the appropriate number of awards created. And we might not know that until we look at the nominations and how many we want to accept, unless we just want to give our artist an arbitrary number. And that's possible as well.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I guess
My point is, we can't keep accepting nominations
until the month or 6 weeks before we're going to give out the awards, because that doesn't give our artists time enough to create them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good point. I think if we're
Putting the applications earlier in January, cutting it off earlier makes sense, because then we have an ample amount of time to, if it's too open-ended, if it's like an entire year that people are applying,
Right.
It's more confusing, I think.
Right.
I would suggest maybe waiting until February to open the awards.
January is kind of a lost month for a lot of people.
sure. Yes, that's a good point.
So maybe if we opened the awards in February and accepted them, I don't know, what do you folks think? End of May? June?
June. Yeah, near June.
Yeah, Jamie Smith. I think June sounds fine. It is nice, yeah, since we are getting started earlier. It seems like we still have quite a bit of time. And I do want, just for clarity's sake, because Phoenix Awards are really like my one blind spot when it comes to LCAC stuff. In the past, and I'm sure it's probably before, but in the past, artists would make, there's not a set number of awards that are made. That is, it's a number that fluctuates. And if anybody who has pre-COVID experience with Phoenix Awards wants to speak to that a little bit, I think that's an interesting facet of it, where it's not like we give out a certain number of awards. It depends on, I guess, just the whims of the group.
Well, it has varied from year to year, but some years it has been written into the contract with the artist that they're expected to deliver, say, 8 awards or 10 awards, and then we make that number of awards.
And Mary, I also wonder too if we'll have more this year because we haven't done it for so long. People have been waiting.
We very well could.
So
This is Dina Amont. I think that's so hard to predict because you would think that there would be some sort of like pent up demand and there would be a lot. But I'm not sure that's happening in other areas in general. So I would hope that would be the case, but I just don't know. I think it's going to be hard to predict.
And once we establish who our artist is going to be, maybe we could have a conversation with that person about how many they feel they could provide for us.
Sure.
Or we could write in like 6 to 12 in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think having a parade is a good idea. And I feel like I really want to let
The Phoenix Awards subcommittee, just kind of take the lead on a lot of these decisions. But I think at some point, just discussing whether or not having a set number per year, I think it should at least be up for consideration at some point. And the other thing that I was going to say goes back to what you're saying, Marla, is the fact that with some pent up demand, I wonder.
Excuse me, Daniel, could I interrupt?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
It's very hard to understand.
Oh, okay.
Breaking up. I don't know if it's just me or other people are experiencing that as well.
Are other people?
Happening to me too.
All right. Is it just me or is it everybody here in the room?
It's just you.
Just me. Oh, I might switch my microphones real quick. Let's see. Yeah, that should be fine. I was just saying that I think exploring the idea of having a set number of awards is something that could be, is at least it should be considered at some point. And then the other thing I was going to say is just the idea of there being a pent up demand to recognize folks. I wonder if we do kind of want to make it explicit in the nomination process that folks who did amazing stuff during the pandemic and who were not recognized, people should really try and think of those people and think of in the years where we weren't presenting those awards, who would have been recognized, so we can make sure that those people are also recognized.
I think that's a good point, Daniel. I also think that people did some great work during the pandemic, so that's something cool to highlight. People did really interesting virtual concerts and different art engagements. We had to really think outside the box. So adding that verbiage in the call could be really cool.
I also did want to point out, it looks like Derek, you have some.
I was on the semantics. I had a couple of comments. So you have a subcommittee. Are they going to work on the semantics of the date? So you open in the first week of February, and that stuff will help Abby in writing that. And then maybe on the advertising, we can do a lot more this year to promote it from the city side of what we do with marketing, the communication events division. So that should help interest.
Mm-hmm. Roger, I couldn't understand a word of what you said.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is this better? I'm just about eating the microphone. What I said is from the communications and events side of Parks and Recreation, we can do a better job of marketing it to the public to let them know about the Phoenix Awards and getting the word out and spreading the community and getting the excitement going through Roger Steinbrock's division and Abby.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do more. We can try different things to see what works. I definitely look at sort of digital marketing as an experiment in some regards and trying to figure out where our audience is and where to reach them. We've definitely been pushing social and yeah, like I said, I've gotten some interest in nominating. So yeah, it's awesome.
Is this better? Mary, is this thumbs up better? Okay.
Oh, that's way better.
Awesome. Yeah, we can absolutely try some new stuff and try to get marketing, push marketing a little bit more for these. Absolutely.
I think that flame newsletter is always, something that goes to everybody. So I think that's a good thing to do. And then I thought the city's social media graphics were great. So those were easy to share and I was able to share those really easily. So doing that kind of thing. I also would love to do, I know we weren't able to do that open house, but I think some personal engagement with people, like if we can be at a coffee shop and just have our faces out there, I think having that person to person thing would be really great.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve for me on organizing that for you guys as well. And I definitely think that it's a little bit nuanced for me, you know, working with the city to that coffee shop relationship. I think I have to be really careful about, you know, asking them. So I think maybe if we wanted to do it in a coffee shop, maybe one of the commissioners, I don't know if Marla, you have someplace in mind, just to get in touch with them, and then I can help from sort of more the organization stuff from this end.
Porter used to do it all the time.
Just reach out to me.
Okay.
I was going through his old job description. I'm going, well, where are we doing? You know, the integration with Funnel Fridays and downtown Lawrence and Explore Lawrence. So we can just collaborate, get a subtask group, reach out, and we'll get it done.
Yeah, because we used to do those culture chats, and we did them at Decade, or we'd be off-site, and it was really fun. And it's just a way to engage people outside of a traditional municipal building and just get out into the community versus waiting for people to come to us. Yeah. That would be great.
Make that happen.
Cool. Absolutely. Okay, well, moving down this nomination instructions document, I think what we had decided, the only dates on here that we really need to finalize would be the ceremony date and then when we want to close nominations. And I think if the subcommittee feels like you can come up with a date for the ceremony, and perhaps ending the nominations in June or at the end of May. Why don't you think about that date as well, and we can reconvene at the retreat and finalize this document to be sent out early February, whenever you see fit. Yeah. How does that feel?
This is Mary. That sounds good to me.
Excellent. Thank you guys for being willing to do so much work on your end. Absolutely, that we can definitely do that.
Great. Thank you, Phoenix Awards subcommittee members. If nobody else has any comments, I think we can go on over to old news or old business, or we're going to be talking about the Phoenix Awards more.
Yeah, so we had some conversation. I had some conversation with the subcommittee for the Phoenix Awards over the last 2 weeks, talking about their recommendation of a lovely art create the actual physical awards, and they have come up with a suggestion. And I was wondering if anybody from the subcommittee would like to talk about it, or if we should just move forward and show that recommendation. Does anybody want to feel? Yeah.
I think everybody knows that we got 2 submissions to be the artist. And why don't you just show the recommendation, the one we're recommending?
Absolutely. Yeah, so her name is Tony Brew, and she makes these really awesome, colorful, dramatic sun sculptures. And I think they definitely lend very well to a physical award. I think it's ceramic. It'll age well. She's been doing it for a long time. And I was really happy to see this come through, especially because we were wanting to make a choice. Oh, sorry. All right. Technical difficulties. Thanks, Kurt. Okay. Can everybody see? Excellent. Sorry about that. Yeah, they're just fabulous. I was excited to see this come through, and yeah, I'll be excited to reach back out to them. Does anyone have any questions?
DLB Smith. So is my understanding that the members of the Phoenix Awards subcommittee have already come to the conclusion that this is the artist they want to recommend to go forward with?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
Yes. So as we, get further into the process through this year, I need to look at the calendar again to figure out exactly when contracts with the artists would go out. But that'll be something that we can definitely look at for sure to make sure all the language is updated, and including that sort of range of physical award numbers. But yeah, I think I'm excited to work with this person, and yeah, it's delightful.
So, Abby, will you be getting with Tony to let her know that she is the chosen one?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm planning to reach out to her before Christmas, but I know it's sort of a intense time for a lot of people, so I'm not sure if I'll hear back before Christmas, but I'll definitely let her know beforehand and to expect a little bit more information from us in the coming months.
Debbie Smith, well, I was going to say, I certainly agree with your statements. I think that their style would lend itself really well to a physical award. And also, I mean, I have to say, like, I recognize their style. I've seen their stuff, and I would be happy to approve their nomination.
So, Abby, would it be? I think after this meeting, particularly since this is a public meeting, some sort of official response should be sent to Tony.
Absolutely, yes, I can.
Anointing her as the person to do these. And my understanding is you'll take care of that pretty quickly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can work on it and have it sent tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Did you want to do anything person with her? I don't know. So I'm asking, in the past, have you done something besides a letter, and do you do a real ceremony and award and a grip and grin and all that good stuff? And so Mary, I think I'd look to you for how did it go in the past?
I think we did a public announcement that the person had been chosen. I don't think we did any ceremony or anything.
That's my
It might be nice to do. I mean, nothing's going to happen before Christmas,
Right?
but maybe in February, in March, or January. I don't know what day it is. Maybe in January we could do some sort of press release with her picture and a sample of what she's doing, or a set of her work, or something, just to give her a little more recognition. I don't know, what the rest of you think?
Absolutely, definitely press release at minimum.
See what the board thinks. I'm curious. It'd be great to get in person with some of the art and do some of the city photography and get it out on the city website. Would be cool. But
yeah, I think that's a great idea. But I do wonder if maybe we want to wait until the physical. We could do an unveiling of the awards. I mean, obviously that brings up, some of the timeline issues as far as when are the physical awards going to be ready. But I think that revealing the award and what that looks like, it would be a really good opportunity for that sort of thing. And then, prior to the actual ceremony, which would be its own thing. Yeah. So
good point, Danielle. I think we could probably do all of the above with a special announcement that she's the one that's been chosen and some samples of her work. And then maybe later in the spring, once she started working on these, get a sample that could be used on promotions and postcards and things for the actual ceremony.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of really rich opportunities for marketing in here, and definitely giving her a ton of opportunity and exposure.
And Debbie Smith, and I'll say, just to be totally clear, if you want me to, I don't know where this individual is, but if you want me to drive over there and shake their hand for a photographer tomorrow, like I'll make time for it if people feel like that's worth the effort. So
like the Publishers Clearing sweepstakes.
Exactly.
I do have a giant check. But.
Love it.
This is Dina Amon. Isn't her show still up at Wheatfields? Does anyone know?
I'll have to check on that. That'd be really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. She, gosh, I haven't been there lately, but she had a show at Wheatfields. I'm not sure when it closes, or perhaps it might have already, but it might be nice to get, I like what Mary was saying about do something soon and get it out there, especially if her show is still up. And then at a later point, we could do something with her samples, because I'm with her, her, first one, because I'm sure that's going to take a while to do that. But we could jump on it right away with an announcement. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
DLB Smith, yeah, I agree. I think we could look into that, see if the show's still up at Wheatfields, we could potentially meet at Wheatfields and do a photo. So I think that'll be something where we can follow, Abby, you and I can follow up and try and figure out some of the specifics on that. My big question is, do we need to are we gonna need a vote to approve the selection, or that's more of a
as I understood it, it was a recommendation of this person and this artist to the rest of the committee on which we would vote.
Okay.
That was just my understanding.
Sure. Yeah. I just wanted to see, because I mean, if that is the case, then obviously we can continue discussing potential for celebrating the awards, but I'd also accept a motion to approve this selection.
I think the motion comes from the committee.
All right, great. Well, then can we get a second to it? I guess.
Don't need a second if it's a motion by committee.
Okay, then we'll just do a roll call, starting with Marlo.
Approve.
And then after that, it'll be Mary.
Approve.
And then Dina.
Fully approve.
And then Marciana.
Approve.
And then Rebecca.
Approve.
And then I will also approve, and it will pass unanimously. Great job again to our Phoenix Award Committee. Is the next thing on the agenda is actually not about the Phoenix Awards. So we can move on. Up next, we are going to look at reviewing the mural proposal criteria. And it's unfortunate that Denise couldn't be here with us for this meeting, because I know that she has had a lot of insights about the mural proposal criteria in the past. So.
Yeah, I put this on the agenda in response to comments that Denise made at our November meeting. And let me not forget to share my screen this time. We had a very interesting proposal come through for public art in November that wasn't necessarily within our jurisdiction or our purview. But yet very interesting. And Denise, I think, was making comments of like, maybe we should, adjust this so that it's a little bit more clear the types of projects that should be applying for a mural proposal. And as she is not present today, I think if you guys still want to look through this, we definitely can. But I do want to give her the space to make some edits as well if she'd like to. So I think we can definitely look over this if you guys would like to, or we can move forward and agree to touch base on this again in the new year. Does anyone have a feeling one way or the other?
I think since Denise had such strong feelings, it might be appropriate to defer it until she was present.
Sure, absolutely.
Debbie Smith, yeah, I agree. And I even wonder if, since the outdoor sculpture exhibition application period is ending on December 17th, and then that the ODSE subcommittee will potentially, meet after that, probably not immediately after that, but after that, I wonder if maybe this would be something. I mean, I'm happy to have this be something that is discussed at a full meeting, but I wonder if maybe the ODSE would be a better place to actually get into the weeds and discuss the criteria and then bring it to the full group. And Denise is on that subcommittee. So
that makes sense to me, because it's a public art committee. So I think that is a good way to go.
Absolutely. I can send an email to that specific subcommittee and ask their thoughts on that. And I'm sure they'll be interested to discuss that for sure. All right. Well, I will stop my share on that.
Great. Yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the January retreat.
Yeah, so a little bit of an update on that. We did decide at the last meeting to move forward with our proposed date of the 22nd, moving the time back a little bit later. So that will be 3 to 5 p.m. And I've made a reservation in this room for that date and time. And we are allowed to bring snacks. I checked. So I will definitely be bringing some snacks. And that's the update, is that the location I have booked it in here just because the virtual component is so accessible to people, and not that I've seen a huge demand for that, just wanting to operate with that degree of publicness. And I think now might be a nice opportunity to touch back on some of the other parts of this that we have talked about in previous meetings. I know we've discussed potentially doing a little bit of a meet and greet with the city commission. Is that something that you guys still feel interested in? If so, I can definitely reach out to them and see if it's something they can fit on their calendar for that time period. And if not, I think it's totally fine too. I just wanted to bring that up and give us a chance to touch base on that.
This is Marla. I would suggest inviting them. I think that's what we did the year that Lisa Larson came when she was mayor, and it was wonderful to have her there. And she didn't stay for the whole time, but she got caught up on some of the things we were talking about, and I thought it was really lovely. So less of a meet and greet and more of being at the table and being part of the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Yeah.
DLB Smith, yeah, I totally agree. I think we should invite them, and yeah, just for a section, maybe just the beginning or just the middle or something like that. So
absolutely. Yes, and Daniel and I will be creating an agenda for this meeting. And if between here and then, if you have an idea of something that you'd really like to be on that agenda, please reach out to me or to Daniel. It's a time for fellowship, and it's definitely a time to look over what we're doing throughout the next year. But it's also a unique experience too. And my first January retreat, so it'll be a little bit different for me than the fall one. Absolutely. Yeah, and I guess I would open the floor for any comments about how they've been done in the past, just to give me a little bit more context on making sure some of the more traditional things are in that agenda. Yeah, if anyone has thoughts on that, feel free to share.
This is Marla. They're usually pretty informal. So there is an agenda, and usually Porter would send it to us for feedback before making it official. So it was very helpful to get everyone's notes on that. And then it was conversational and broader picture. So one thing that was helpful, if I remember correctly, I think the last one was at Theater Lawrence, and there was a whiteboard or something where we can physically draw on things. And it was just a little bit less like we're chained to our seats here, and a little bit more retreat style, where we're more getting our heads together and mapping out things in a conceptual level.
Excellent. Yeah, I can bring a whiteboard for sure.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we can move forward.
great. Yeah. So the next item on old business is actually a TGT update from Denise. And again, Denise is not here, unfortunately. If she reviews this video, hopefully this will reinforce how important she is to this group. But she did send some highlights to me that I can relay, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. She says the TGT members reviewed and scored a total of 30 grant applications on Friday, December 9th. Committee members looked at the scores and made decisions about the allocation of money amounts. Committee members apportioned amounts by examining total scores, averages, standard deviations, and more. So some great math words in there from Denise. And then the second point that she has here is that Roger will present the results of the committee's evaluations next Tuesday, December 20th, at the Lawrence City Commission. And in Roger's words, should it be pulled for discussion, which is because it'll be on the consent agenda. And so if they want to talk about it, they will. And if they don't, they don't. So that is Denise's update on TGT. through my phone and me reciting her email. So I'm curious if anybody has any questions. There might be somebody in the room who can answer them, even though Denise isn't here. But if not, that's always okay.
And if you have a question after the fact, you can always email me, and Roger's right next door to me, so I can get an answer for you pretty quick.
All right. It's on the draft agenda now. I was approved this morning, and Sherry sent out the draft, so it's there for the 20th.
So it'll be on the 20th. So yeah, and if anybody wants to attend the city commission meeting on the 20th and potentially hear them talk about it, that's always an option. Moving along, up next we have our staff report. So the first item there is we will receive an update for the quarterly budget adjustment for 2023. That's the rollover, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah. I added this section to the agenda just because I had several things that I felt like I would just be talking about. And it's not supposed to be formal. It's just an opportunity for me to talk at you guys about everything staff liaison E. So just a little bit of a preface on that. Not sure if it'll be in the agenda every meeting, but it definitely felt right for this one. Let me share my screen with you guys. As we've spoken about in previous meetings, we want to roll over the budget remainder from 2022 into our 2023 budget. This is something that I've been working on pretty much since I took over this role. And I have sort of finalized the memo a little bit early with Porter, working with him on this. And I wanted to give you guys sort of a firsthand look at the actual document and get that into your hands as well. Definitely given a little bit of a background into not having access to funding in 2020 and 2021. And the budget rollover would be allowing us to catch up on some of that lost time and lost funding. And I've definitely made sure to outline our programs here, specifically in the request. And as I've been advised by the finance department, we can request things. We can request the budget remainder be added to our 2023 budget as a Q1 budget adjustment. And then after that rolls over, then we can allocate funding to our programs, such as a doubled amount for community arts grants and increased funds for our other programs as well. So this is something that I plan to put on the consent agenda, I believe, for their budget meeting.
Which for Jeremy's quarterly budget adjustment. Yeah, and I don't know when he's going to have that, so it's a Jeremy item.
Yeah, and I have spoken to him about this and decided that, you know, as quickly as I can in the new year would be the right time. And so that was part of the impetus for creating this now, just to have it ready to go so that as soon as I'm back in January, I can move forward with this and get things moving. Yeah, I'll open it up to you guys for any questions you may have about this. Yeah.
This is Marlo. I'm not the biggest fan of the term catch up because I do feel like, you know, we presented at the city commission meeting talking about the real deficit we're in, you know, after having 3 years of no funding. So I feel like if we say catch up, then it might feel like, oh, we're coming back to where we were. And it's not the case. So I do want to make a case for additional funding for us. So I'm hesitant to put that term in there and have people think, oh, they're fine now. So I would suggest a rephrasing of that if we could.
Do you have a suggested word that would maybe play better?
Could somebody read that sentence? I have a hard time saying it.
It's down here. The LCAC is requesting a Q1 budget adjustment for the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission account numbers as a way to partially catch up and be able to provide increased program funding for our artists and creative community as they continue recovering from the impact of the pandemic.
I would maybe just get rid of that catch up.
Yes.
To provide.
Absolutely.
So right after the 02, I think I'd leave that in there, but just say, be able to provide increased program funding for our artists. I think I would keep that there.
Yeah.
That says we're trying to do better and do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely make that adjustment. Yep.
Great, thank you, Abby. Are there any other thoughts on this? I mean, this is something that we've been asking about for a while. So it's nice to see it moving forward, but I don't have any other input. I appreciate the wordsmithing, Marlo.
Could we see this doc? Like, are you able to email it to us just for an eyeball on it before it goes out? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of this, it's part of the agenda packet.
Okay.
So it's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's there, but if emailing is easier, I can definitely do that too.
If it's in that packet, I'll read it tonight just to make sure, because like my eyes can't focus as well on.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's the screens.
Yeah. So from the Explore Lawrence board meeting that was at last week before last, TGT funds are up about $200,000, but that's not due to increased heads and beds. That's due to an increase of room rates and inflation.
Oh.
The good news is that's increasing, and the sporting events have been very hopeful with football catching on this year for Kansas.
Yeah. Been lucky in that way.
So that's been good.
Yeah, it is. It is like great timing for that. And I feel comfortable with that. But I also anticipate, another pandemic could happen. And I'm just really hesitant to have our funding from this TGT source. And so I did appreciate the door opened up a little bit where people were considering having that conversation before our next budget cycle from the city commission level. So I think it's a good conversation to have because it's unpredictable. Like, this is a great year for football. Maybe next year's not, or who knows what happens.
It could not be a great year for general fund. I'm down $2.4 million next year's budget, and I'm down about $1 million this year. So we're running on ARPA funds. It may not, I'm not really excited about being in general fund for 2024.
Gotcha.
Every budget year, maybe something, the sales tax numbers come in great. The economy recovers. But something needs to change. At the last budget meeting, the city manager's budget requested property tax increase, I believe, either that or it was flat. So no change there. Requested cuts or reductions in programs. Nothing changed there. And then Parks and Rec raised fees. And so that's where we were at the last board meeting on Monday night, trying to see how we do this and trying to keep the focus on fees and not other adjustments. So being in the TGT may not be necessarily a bad thing. As we go into the budget starting in the spring, the departments will start developing the budget. Part of what we do is the TGT budgeting. So we have Explore Lawrence, Downtown Lawrence Inc., Sister Cities, LCAC, who am I missing? Watkins Museum.
Sister Cities.
I think I got Sister Cities.
Sorry.
So trying to do that, and let's say we propose we're going into the general fund and I allocate all the TGT dollars somewhere else and they say no. Now I've got to go back. I'm going to have to pull TGT away from these other entities that may have been making plans. That's more on our planning on how do I work through this.
B. Smith, I appreciate the nuanced perspective and the idea that the grass may not be greener on the other side. I feel like, well, first of all, looking at the agenda, I know that we wanted to also discuss the fact that like the rollover, which we are going to be doing into 2023, is something that if we were in the general fund would not be an option. So that is also something to consider. And then within all this discussion, I know that we also just wanted to give a general update on the letter and how it was received and everything. I don't know if anybody else, if anybody was able to tune into the city commission meeting to see Marlo give a brilliant statement explaining our perspective with the letter that was in the consent agenda. They did decide to pull it out for discussion. So I'm curious if Marlo, if you want to give a little bit of perspective, or if anybody has any questions, or if anybody was able to watch.
I'd like to hear from Marlo.
I was encouraged, Mary, about the fact that they pulled it out. So I think that was a positive thing. There were questions from Courtney Shipley and Amber Sellers, and I felt some encouraging nods. And so I feel like that door might be open as we were trying to do our approach of having some coffees or happy hours with some commissioners and really get them, abreast of what's been happening for the past few years. I think the conversation about the funding, like the TGT nuances, would be excellent for the retreat. So I don't know if Derek, if you're planning to attend in January, if you could.
What's the date?
The 22nd.
Okay. Yeah, I should be available. I've got a conference at the end of the month.
Okay.
Yeah,
that would be great. Because I think those are some of the conversations and just thinking about it, from different perspectives and what might be a good approach for this year or, what we're looking at. So that's a great forum, I think, for the retreat.
Tammy Smith, yeah, I agree. I think that really delving into this more and some of the pros and cons of potentially changing is definitely something we could get into there. And I want to agree that Marla, that I thought that the city commission seemed like they really received it was great that they did decide to discuss it, and I feel like they received it well. I don't know if they seemed like they had any specific immediate impulse about whether or not they would be inclined towards changing the funding structure, but they definitely, I feel like you spoke a lot to the fact that, arts and culture is not just a part of what Lawrence does, but is really like crucial and should be seen as like a crucial part of who we are as a community. And that really seemed to be something that resonated with all of them. So, and thanks for doing it.
It was good.
It was a pretty heated meeting.
It was tense in there. I know. Well, I feel like one thing I didn't mention in that meeting, which was in the letter, but just the idea of like arts and culture being on the same plane as sustainability, where sustainability has an office and a staff. And I felt like, that was something that we should look at, with us being so high on that strategic plan, like just really putting resources behind it, because there's so much we could do with a director level position. So I just wanted to, and I think they did kind of get a little bit of that, at that meeting, but I think if we did some one-on-ones or they came to the retreat, there's some more opportunity to get everybody up to speed and seeing what some possibilities are. I'm going to Salina tomorrow to be on a grant panel. So I was going to kind of pick their brains a little bit and to see like how their arts and culture department works and see like how they do their grant programs and what their staffing resources are like. So I think that could be a cool thing, whether we invite somebody from Salina to come talk to us or we look at some models that other cities are doing too. So
sustainability is a commitment area of the strategic plan. And so they're a part of the priority-based budgeting, which is a good piece of the strategic plan. So how we tie to the strategic plan is also related to the priority-based budgeting, which connects those two. So for example, when you're in the general fund, we have the gamut. Now I'll just take Parks and Rec because I know the status. So Prairie Park Nature Center is a 4, which is least aligned with the strategic plan. So that's on chopping block, cemeteries and levees and golf. So at the top end, the free stuff, which is a huge portion of the Parks and Rec budget, almost 49%, is open space, parks, trails, the community band in the park at the bandstand. So that's on the other end. And I would think each division, I know MSO's got some of the low-hanging fruit, the police does. So when the budgets get short, where do they look? Okay, can we reduce this program? Can we save here? Where is it as a priority? I'm not an expert in priority-based budgeting, but I have a feeling it's going to play a lot into the next budget round too. So how we align, looking at the key performance indicators of either unmistakable identity or economic prosperity or connected city, or those are the outcomes, and the commitments are the sustainability, equity and inclusion. I don't think what I'm missing, sound fiscal stewardship. Those pieces are also pieces of the pie. So,
does arts and culture have a number, or where does that fit?
Well, see, you're in the TGT, so that's a different animal.
Okay.
Same with Explore Lawrence, but that's the Visitors Bureau, Chamber of Lawrence, Humane Society, which actually receives part of the general fund. But the other parts play in the TGT world, which is different. That's part of the unmistakable identity outcome. And so how are we meeting the KPIs of events and culture and events in the city as a KPI, the BIPOC events and culture. I feel like I'm represented and welcomed in my community. So those are the things that when we can tie strongly to those, it really gives that sense of this is a priority when we go in for funding. And I think there's an opportunity that really hasn't been explored that much. Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CIP for some of the arts, I know we rely on the 2%. Why aren't we, this group, getting into that CIP pot or submitting those and then showing how they align? So I know it's going to be controversial.
What is CIP?
It's a capital improvement program. So any community member or staff member or collaboration of staff and community members. So for example, Watkins Museum and our department worked on a CIP item to repair Grover Barn and tie into the Underground Railroad and all that. So then it starts to score high on my culture celebrated, the BIPOC. There may be an opportunity to match a grant. So you start to match grants and you tie high in the outcomes and the commitment areas, scores a lot higher. So now it's going to compete with could compete with a splash pad or could compete with a municipal services item or road pavement project. So now you've got something before the commission, and even if it doesn't get funded, it may be consider for grant opportunities, but it's on the unfunded list. So we had quite a few of those this year. But it's out there and it's seen. The river. What's that?
I could talk to you at length about funding for the theater and going to the city.
Okay.
Well, fortunately, there is a retreat coming up where
we'll have that opportunity.
Yeah.
One of the things though that I would like to ask is if we do stay within the TGT funds, my understanding is that the Explore Lawrence is going to be asking for a specific amount of money rather than a percentage from that fund. And it would seem to me that if that occurred, it would make the rest of our funding even more unstable.
Derek Rudge, Director of Parks and Recreation, whatever we do is going to be fair and equitable in some way. So what we do for one agency should be consistent with the other agencies. So if for some reason we said, hey, we're going to do 2-year agreements and plan this out, in my opinion, everybody gets a 2-year agreement. There isn't one special entity over another. So we haven't had those discussions. I know that board talks to me quite a bit, but we haven't gotten to the operating agreement yet. So we are starting the 23 or 24 budget process starting in January. And that is the perfect time to be working on those CIP items and proposals. So that might be a good project to have on the agenda for the retreat.
I like that idea.
That's really helpful, Derek. Thank you.
I also think our grants and advocacy subcommittee can be integral to that, because I think identifying those, like, it's easy to get lost in the cracks of that, but just like having those on some group's radar would be wonderful. And I think advocacy wise, certain things being higher in the strategic plan, sometimes they're more vocal and they're more, well-versed in getting crowds of people to show up and speak to an issue. So if as a subcommittee, we can commit to gathering groups or finding out how to get people outspoken about the arts. Like sometimes I don't know, for some reason, people in the arts tend to be quieter about what we're doing. Like we're not shouting at the rooftops, all this wonderful creative economy boost that we're making. And I think having some strength in numbers would be really smart if we do some more appearances to the commission.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to circle back and just say that watching the letter go to the city commission was fascinating for me as a first time experience. And I thought they really did what we asked. And I mean, the formal ask was to receive the letter and, and hope that they pulled it and asked for further discussion, which is exactly what happened. And yeah, I think we're in a favorable position with them, and I can definitely, I think we have some awesome opportunities for the retreat to follow up on. Yeah.
And maybe that could be even part of the invitation to the commission, is to say it was wonderful to get this to your attention at the meeting. We'll be discussing it in more detail during the retreat, and we'd love to have your ears and voices at the table. Because it did seem like there was interest and, eye contact and nodding and all that kind of great stuff that you hope to see.
DLB Smith, I totally agree. And I feel like a lot of that goes to the fact of the letter and the arguments that you put forward. A lot of that is really like, based on shown metrics and facts and research. And I think that doing some more of that stuff, and, you talked about looking at other communities and looking at how they prioritize these things. And I think that that's a great idea. And I think that that can be something we continue to do in order to try and make a case for what we're talking about. I will. It seems like potentially might be ready to move on to our next agenda item. Always feel free to stop me if I'm wrong. But up next, after the staff reports, we do have a section just for committee updates, and we don't actually have too much listed under there in the agenda. I know that the Phoenix Awards group has met, the Public Art group has not met, and the Community Arts Grants, or the Grants and Advocacy group, has also not met, and we're waiting for those application periods to close before coming together. But I did want to, at the very least, give Abby an opportunity to potentially throw out some numbers so we know, as far as applications are concerned, how many applications have we received for both the ODSE outdoor sculpture exhibition and the community arts grants.
Yeah, it has really ramped up in the last several weeks. For outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition, we're at 7, and for community arts grants, we're at 6.
Great.
Yeah, and they've been coming in. I got 2 more today. So I anticipate that will continue through the rest of the week, through the rest of the, up until the 17th, which is just next week.
A couple days.
Saturday. It's Saturday. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I hope to see a couple more. But yeah, it feels good. It feels like people are responding. And I did get an email from someone asking a couple questions, saying that they're planning to submit like as close to the deadline as possible. So I'm assuming that that's probably a common theme, and we'll see some more come through. So
Marla, I know at least 3 or 4 that are planning for the community arts grants. So
yep,
I think it's great.
I do have some updates when you feel it's appropriate.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
We're working on the Parks and Rec Arts and Culture Master Plan, comprehensive plan coming up. Looking at the consultant, Confluence was the one that won. They have done some arts in other communities. So we're working on trying to get a good statement of work to make sure that they have the right people to look at arts and culture as part of this plan. So I do have some ideas that I would love to share and get some feedback. And I don't really have it in a presentation, so I don't know if they want to have a task group, or I can push some papers and see how much we can get done. This comprehensive plan came in at over double of what we were hoping for. Now inflation's got us, but it's something to look at. And what we would also like for this plan is the steering committee will have members from the Arts and Culture Commission. And I think that will help, but it would really be nice to have somebody that has that background. No different than the folks in Parks and Recreation. If we said, hey, guess what? The Lawrence Cultural and Arts Commission is going to run your master plan. There you go. Yeah, no. The same thing goes the other way. We want to make sure we have the right input and consultants have the right ears and people looking at the right things. So those are some of the things I can push it out, but I don't really have it on. I can read through it. Would that be helpful for the people on the Zoom? And I can push something out in paper, or would you rather have it emailed out? And I've kind of got a short notice turn to try to get something to get commitments from the consultant firm.
DW Smith, what is that short notice? I mean, what is the time frame for that?
Ideally, I would love to get it done by Friday.
And just
read it.
And just to be clear, you're looking for the input of the full group, or potentially have a couple people volunteer to.
Just a couple people would be great if I can get either be Zoom or it can be in person, however.
And would that be something where potentially the document could be emailed out to every member, and then everybody can?
It's just a draft, and I looked at some of the other. I was looking at one that I was talking with Porter, and he shared out Raleigh Creative Life Raleigh's arts plan, and so I was looking at their scope. But if I expand the scope too much, the contractor's going to go, well, yes, but we're going to ask for a whole lot more money, and I don't have it. So I'm trying to get done what I can to get them with the scope to go out and subcontract a consultant that has that right background and experience. And some of what I have is some of the scope that I pulled out of a 380 page, or this one's only, I think, 80 some pages, Creative Art Life Plan, 2030 plan that was done for Raleigh Arts community. But I took out their scope from their RFP. I was able to find that. And then it'd be a prioritizing from, say, 1 to 10 or other things we want to add. And I was at lunch with Porter and getting feedback from him and looking through his old job description and what he did, and going back through some other plans. So he has me on a good track, but I also want input from the Arts and Culture Commission.
I did find a really good cultural plan. I was looking at something for a different project, just like a public art mural or memorial for the Layarda project. And I stumbled upon a really cool, I think it was from Georgia, like a cultural plan. So I could send that your way, but it was really clear and succinct. Sometimes I feel like our cultural plan, we had that big matrix. Sometimes it was a little overly wordy, and to get to the outcomes, it was a little tricky to navigate, but this one I thought was super clear and easy to identify, like ways to get to what goal you're trying to achieve. So I could send that your way because I just stumbled across it this week.
Okay.
I would really like to see what you've got,
okay,
Derek. So I don't know what the best way to get it out is, but I would like to see it.
And I want to make sure I'm using the right email, Mary. I think I've got your private.
I can get that.
Okay, so I'll send it out. And you have a 9-person board?
Yeah.
So you could have 4 people on a subtask group. If I can get something out tomorrow, and maybe we can start talking.
I would be happy to do it.
So Mary?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to volunteer to be on the sub task for reviewing the document?
The thoughts, input.
Oh, this is Rebecca. You can add me to that.
Okay.
And there's no pressure, of course. I know everyone's busy. It's the holidays. If no one else wants to, I'll be happy to look over it as well.
Okay. Sounds good. I will get that out first thing in the morning. I'm going to go to bed tonight.
Yeah, it's fair. Great. Well, I mean, we're happy to contribute to that. And then, so that was the committee updates. I don't think there's anything else that we really need to review. This really might be the mythical short meeting, short-ish.
Right.
The next section we have is just miscellany on the agenda. And the only thing on there is that I am going to be on I call it the committee, but it's the recommendations regarding boards and commissions committee. So it is the committee which is being convened by the city to look over the entirety of the boards and commissions that the city has. I think there's 47 different.
Some 48 or
some of which are, I know that in my day job, I have received emails about the joint city county board, which I'm a part of as a staff member. But so that is already happening. I actually don't know when the first meeting is going to be, but I'll be there, and I'll be speaking to my experience with the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission and the Special Alcohol Funding Advisory Board and all that stuff. So I know I've talked about the committee in the past. So as that starts happening, if any of you have any questions about the committee, just feel free to bother me. So it's about that. And then if nobody has any questions about the committee now, let's see. I think, did I skip it? I know we normally have a point on the agenda where we just talk about things that are going on in the community. So if you have attended any very cool arts or cultural events where you want to plug something, I'm always eager to know about cool things that are going on. So feel free to shout out. I went to the Lola Fair this past weekend. There's always a bunch of things like that. So
I went to that too. Lots of fun, good stuff.
This is Marla. Less of an event, but I just wanted to acknowledge Candy Baker was the founder of the dance at the Art Center, and she recently passed away. And she was one of the early Phoenix Award winners.
Oh, wow.
So I just want to recognize her amazing contributions. She was an amazing artist, but then also a nurturer of so many people in the Lawrence community. So it was a real honor to get to know her throughout the years, and a real sad day to hear of her passing. But that's the wonderful thing. People can go back and look at the Phoenix Award winners. Like if you look, Mary Dufton, one of the early ones too. And it's so great to get that Lawrence history and to see that people are, what the contributions they've made to our community.
This is Dina Ahmad. Can I add, if no one has any other events, can I ask two hopefully quick questions? We still have a vacancy on our committee, is that right?
Yes.
Is that something that should go on our agenda for our retreat, maybe, or?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or at some future meeting?
Yeah, as I understand it, we can make a recommendation to the mayor, who then will appoint. But we can definitely, let's talk about it.
Jamie Smith, I totally agree. We can discuss that. And if you know anybody who's willing to spend a couple hours a month in sitting in this room with us, that I would be excited to hear about it. So,
and then forgive this probably basic question, but when we don't have a member on the committee, when we have a vacancy on the committee, does that change the quorum and then the number of the number we need for a quorum, or does that affect it at all, or is it still considered a 9-person committee even if there's a vacancy? How does that work? So it's a very long answer. We could do it at another meeting, but
no worries. I think I can condense it. We're technically a 10-person commission, and we have a vacancy from somebody that I didn't actually get to meet. I didn't overlap with them, and I cannot remember his name, which is terrible. So we technically have a vacancy at 9, and we have another vacancy as of October. So that's a very good point. I think we're acting as
Roger, follow up, because I think we had that because we had like 3 vacancies on our Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and we needed everybody because the board was set for 9. So let's get back with you, because I want to make sure the bylaws and make sure that we give you the right answer.
So we actually have 2 vacancies right now then, is that right? Did I understand that right?
Yes.
Jamie Smith, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case because we had two members who and I think checking the bylaws is great, but from my experience, it should just be a percentage of the people who are active members.
One more than half.
Yeah.
Well, so we could according to, I believe that when we boilerplated, legal did this a couple years ago on that, for example, you can have 3 unexcused board meetings and then you're off the board. You can have 5 excused. And so once you have people off the board, you have them filled. I want to say that we were, that was changing the forum size, but I do want to get with Roger and make sure that we followed that correctly.
And then the second thing, I'm sorry.
That's how we operate, yeah, with the theater. It's a quorum of the number that you have.
Of the number of active people.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second thing I just wanted to say is that Tony Brew's show is at Wheatfield, and it doesn't have a date, but it says through January. So I think it would be a great idea if we could jump on that and while her show is still up.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk to her tomorrow.
Great. Exciting. Thank you.
I knew I'd seen her stuff somewhere and I could not figure it out, but it's probably there.
Debbie Smith. So technically we don't have that much anything else on our agenda, and it sounds like we don't have anybody else wanting to share events that they have gone to or are going to. But Dina, I'm really glad you asked those questions. We're always open for people to ask questions or make comments. So if anybody has anything else, feel free to speak. And if not, I'll move to adjournment. All right, hearing nothing, can I get a motion for adjournment?
This is Mary. I'll move to adjourn.
A second.
All right, thank you, Mary, for moving, and Marlo for seconding. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Marlo.
Approve.
And Mary.
Approve.
And Dina.
Approve.
And Marciana.
Approve.
And Rebecca.
Approve.
Great, and I will also approve. It passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, staff. Thank you for everything you do. And we will try and get lunch at Wheatfields tomorrow with Tony.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.